I can still wash blood off my hands, but I can't wash it out of my memory. My name is Eleanor Hayes, and I was an Army nurse with the 95th Evacuation Hospital in Italy, 1944. I was 23 years old. They told us we'd be safe behind the lines, that we'd be helping boys recover and clean hospital wards, that nursing in a war zone was noble work. They lied about the safe part. I grew up in Charleston, South Carolina. My father was a doctor, general practice, made house calls, delivered half the babies in our county. I'd wanted to be a nurse since I was 12, watching him work. When the war started, it felt like destiny. The Army needed nurses desperately. My mother didn't want me to go, but Daddy understood. "They need good people over there, Ellie," he said. "You go do your part." I shipped out in February of 43, first to North Africa, then Sicily, then up the Italian peninsula. By the spring of 1944, we were set up near Anzio, about 30 miles south of Rome. The beachhead had been established months earlier, but the Germans had us pinned down. We couldn't break out, and they couldn't push us back into the sea. Stalemate, meat grinder, take your pick. It all meant the same thing. Our hospital was in an old school building, partially bombed out. We had operating rooms in the basement because of the shelling. The Germans knew exactly where we were. You could see the red crosses on our tents, but that didn't always matter. Shells don't read Geneva Conventions. We worked 12-hour shifts, sometimes longer. Sometimes we didn't leave the ward for 20 hours straight when the casualties came flooding in. And they always came flooding in. May 23rd, 1944. That's the day I'm going to tell you about. The day the breakout from Anzio began. The day I learned that there are worse things than death. The artillery barrage started at dawn. Our own guns pounding German positions before the infantry pushed forward. We knew what was coming, had been briefed the night before. Operation Buffalo, they called it. The big breakout from the beachhead. More artillery meant more casualties. It was simple mathematics. We'd prepared as much as we could. Extra supplies brought up from the beach. Plasma, whole blood, morphine, sulfa powder, bandages. Never enough bandages. We converted 2 more classrooms into overflow wards because we knew the surgical tents would fill up fast. Dr. Kaplan, chief surgeon, brilliant man, hands like a concert pianist. He gathered all the nurses that morning. "It's going to be bad today," he said. "Worse than usual. I need you to be ready. I need you to be strong." I remember thinking I was ready. I'd been doing this for over a year. I'd seen men with their legs blown off, their faces burned beyond recognition, their intestines hanging out. I thought I'd seen everything. The first ambulances arrived around 800 hours. Then they didn't stop. Litter bearers carried them in, and we did triage right there in the receiving area. Major Helen Winters, head nurse, tough as nails, never saw her cry once. She'd walk down the line making decisions. Surgery. Ward. Expectant. Expectant. That was the word we used for the ones who wouldn't make it, the ones we couldn't save. We'd move them to a separate tent, make them comfortable, give them morphine, hold their hands if we had time. We rarely had time. A kid from Texas, couldn't have been more than 18, was brought in with half his chest torn open by shrapnel. He was conscious, asking for his mother. I held his hand while Helen checked him over, saw her face, saw what she was going to say. "Surgery," I said before she could speak. "He goes to surgery." Helen looked at me, looked at the boy. There were already 6 men waiting for the operating table, and we only had 2 tables running. 2 surgeons. Not enough. Never enough. "Surgery," Helen said finally, marked his forehead with a grease pencil. "Get him prepped." He died before we could get him into the OR. I was holding his hand when he went. He never stopped calling for his mother. By noon, we'd run out of space. The wards were full. The surgical tents were full. We had men on stretchers in the hallways, in the courtyard, anywhere we could put them. The smell was overwhelming. Blood, sweat, gangrene, disinfectant, human waste. You couldn't escape it. It got into your uniform, your hair, your skin. I worked the post-op ward that afternoon. 20 beds, all full, men in various states of recovery or dying. Some were crying, some were delirious with fever, some were silent, staring at the ceiling with empty eyes. A sergeant came in, missing both legs and his left arm, triple amputee. He was awake, aware. I checked his vitals, changed his dressings, gave him morphine. He didn't say anything. Just watched me work with this look on his face. Not pain, not fear, something worse. Acceptance, like he'd already decided he was dead, and his body just hadn't figured it out yet. "You're going to be okay," I told him, squeezed his remaining hand. "You're going to make it home." He looked at me like I was speaking a foreign language. "Home to what?" he said quietly. I didn't have an answer. The shells started falling around 1400 hours, German artillery targeting our position. We heard the whistling, then the explosions, close, too close. The building shook. Dust rained down from the ceiling. Men who couldn't move were screaming, terrified, while we ran around trying to calm them, trying to keep working. One hit the north ward. Direct hit. I was 3 rooms away and felt the concussion knock the air out of my lungs. Helen was already running toward the screaming before I could move. The ward was gone. Just rubble and smoke and bodies. Some of the patients had survived. We pulled out 5 men, all wounded again on top of their existing injuries. The rest were dead, including Lieutenant Sarah Morrison, one of our nurses, 26 years old, from Iowa, engaged to be married. We found her under a collapsed beam. She was still alive when we pulled her out, but her back was broken. She knew it. I could see it in her eyes. She looked up at me and Helen, and she said, "Don't let me die here. Please don't let me die here." We carried her to the expectant tent. There was nothing else we could do. I stayed with her. Helen tried to pull me away. They needed me in surgery, needed me in the wards, but I refused. Sarah was my friend. We'd shared a tent for 8 months, talked about what we'd do after the war. She wanted to open a flower shop in Des Moines. She died an hour later, holding my hand, asking me to write to her fiancé, tell him she loved him, tell him she was sorry. I wrote that letter the same night. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely hold the pen. I still don't know if he ever got it. The casualties kept coming for 3 days straight, 72 hours of blood and screaming and death. We worked until we collapsed. Slept for 2 hours on a cot in the supply room, then got up and did it again. I stopped feeling things. Had to. You can't break down when a 19-year-old is begging you to save his leg, and you know the gangrene has already set in. That amputation is his only chance. You can't cry when you're assisting in surgery, and Dr. Kaplan is elbow deep in some boy's abdomen trying to clamp a bleeder, and the blood just keeps coming. You go numb. You become a machine, check vitals, change dressings, administer medication, hold the basin when they vomit, clean them when they soil themselves because they can't move. Do it again and again and again. One night, or maybe it was day, I'd lost track. I was changing the dressing on a corporal's stump. His leg had been amputated above the knee 2 days earlier. The wound looked bad. Red, swollen, hot to the touch, infection setting in despite the sulfa. I knew what that meant. He'd probably need a revision surgery, take more of the leg, if he was lucky. If not, the infection would spread and kill him anyway. He was awake, watching me work. "Nurse," he said quietly, "am I going to die?" I should have said no. Should have given him hope, comfort, something. That's what we were supposed to do. But I was so tired, so empty. "I don't know," I said, "just the truth. Maybe. I don't know." He nodded, didn't seem surprised. "Thanks for being honest." Later, Helen pulled me aside. She'd heard about it. "You can't do that," she said. "You can't take away their hope. That's all some of these boys have left." "I don't have any hope left to give them," I said. She slapped me, right across the face, hard enough to make my ears ring. Then she pulled me into a hug, and we both stood there crying in the supply closet while men died 50 feet away. "You find it," she said. "You dig deep and you find it. Because if we stop caring, if we stop trying, then what's the point? They deserve better than us giving up." She was right. But God, it was hard. So hard. My breaking point came on the 4th day, not from the blood or the dying or the exhaustion. It came from something smaller, stupider. A private was brought in with a sucking chest wound, bad one. We got him stabilized, into surgery. Dr. Kaplan worked on him for 3 hours. Against all odds, the kid survived. Made it through surgery, made it through the first critical night. By the 2nd day, he was conscious, talking, joking with the other men in the ward. His name was Danny Reeves, from Philadelphia, 20 years old. Showed me pictures of his girl back home, Betty, her name was. Pretty blonde girl with a bright smile. He was going to marry her after the war, he said, already had the ring picked out. I believed him. For the first time in days, I actually believed one of them would make it home and have a life. On the 3rd day after his surgery, he developed a fever. By that evening, it was raging. Infection had set in somewhere we couldn't reach. His lungs filled with fluid. We tried everything: sulfa, oxygen, prayer. He drowned in his own blood at 0300 hours while I held his hand. I walked outside after he died. Just kept walking past the tents, past the perimeter, out toward the beach. Someone was probably supposed to stop me, but nobody did. I walked until I couldn't see the hospital anymore, until all I could hear was the waves. And I screamed, just screamed at the ocean, at the sky, at God if he was listening. Screamed until my throat was raw and I couldn't make any more sound. We saved him. We did everything right. He survived surgery. He was going to make it. And then he died anyway because of some invisible infection we couldn't stop, couldn't see, couldn't fight. What was the point? What was the goddamn point of any of it? I don't know how long I stayed out there. Helen found me eventually. Didn't say anything. Just sat down next to me on the sand, and we watched the sun come up over the water. I can't do this anymore, I said. Yes, you can, she said, because there's nobody else. Just us. Just this. So we get up, and we go back, and we try to save the next one. We went back. But something in me stayed on that beach. Something broke that wouldn't ever heal right. The war ended in May of 1945. I was still in Europe, at a hospital in France by then. When they announced the German surrender, everyone celebrated. Champagne, dancing, kissing strangers, victory in Europe. I went to my quarters and slept for 16 hours. I came home in July of 45. My parents met me at the train station in Charleston. My mother cried. My father hugged me and said, "Welcome home, Ellie. We're so proud of you." I tried to smile, tried to be the daughter they remembered, but that girl didn't exist anymore. She died somewhere between Anzio and reality. They wanted to hear stories. Everyone did. Wanted to know what it was like, what I did, what I saw. I learned to give them the sanitized version. We helped wounded soldiers. It was hard work, but rewarding. I'm glad I could serve. I never told them about Sarah Morrison. Never told them about Danny Reeves or the boy from Texas or the sergeant who asked, "Home to what?" Never told them about the smell or the screaming or the way blood looks when there's just too much of it. How could I? They didn't want to hear that. Nobody did. I went back to nursing, worked at the Medical University Hospital in Charleston for 37 years, labor and delivery mostly, bringing life into the world instead of watching it leave. That helped. Some, but I couldn't handle surgical nursing, couldn't stand the smell of the OR, the instruments, the blood. I'd start shaking and have to leave. They were understanding about it. War nerves, they called it. Nobody used the term PTSD back then. We just called it being weak. I never married. Came close once in 1952. Nice man, accountant, stable, but he wanted me to talk about the war, wanted to understand what I'd been through. I tried. God, I tried. But the words wouldn't come. Or when they did come, I couldn't stop them. And I'd be sobbing and shaking, and he'd be holding me looking terrified, because this wasn't the composed woman he thought he knew. He left eventually. I don't blame him. I kept in touch with Helen for a while. Christmas cards, occasional letters. She became a nursing instructor, taught at a university in Boston. In 1963, I got a call from her sister. Helen had killed herself. Pills. Left a note that said she was tired of carrying ghosts. I understood completely. I'm 79 years old now, retired, living alone in a house too big for one person. I volunteer at the VA hospital sometimes, sit with the old veterans. We don't talk about our wars much. We don't have to. We can see it in each other's eyes. That look, that knowing. People thank me for my service sometimes. Young people mostly. They mean well. They see an old woman with a World War II Nurse Corps pin on her cardigan, and they think they understand. They don't. Service, that's what they call it, like I chose it, like it was noble and clean and something to be proud of. I tried to save lives. That part is true. And I did save some, but I couldn't save most of them. Couldn't save Sarah. Couldn't save Danny. Couldn't save the thousands of others who came through those wards, bleeding and broken and terrified. And I couldn't save myself. People talk about the greatest generation like we were heroes, like we won the war and came home and built America and lived happily ever after. But they don't see the nightmares, don't see the pills in the medicine cabinet, the way some of us can't stand to be touched, can't stand sudden noises, can't stand anything that reminds us. Helen was right to be tired of the ghosts. I'm tired too, so tired. But I'm still here, still carrying them. Danny and Sarah and the boy from Texas and all the others whose names I've forgotten but whose faces I still see, every single one. They told us we were helping, that we were making a difference, that our work mattered. Maybe it did, but the cost, nobody tells you about the cost. I washed a lot of blood off my hands during the war. Thousands of gallons, probably. Washed it off and went to the next patient and did it again. But like I said at the beginning, I can still wash blood off my hands. I just can't wash it out of my memory. It's still there. It will always be there. Some stains don't come out, no matter how hard you scrub.